We are certainly learning more about a glamorous model who's gone from the cover of Playboy and Penthouse to a special bulletin from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Turns out she's married to a man who spent some time behind bars, as she herself stands accused of committing several crimes. We're taking another look at the search for Adva Levy with attorney Adante Pointer. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Police in Southern California, they are still apparently on the lookout for Adva Levy. We've talked about before this 29-year-old content creator accused of meeting up with older men in the LA area under the guise of a date, and instead she's accused of stealing from them, stealing from their homes. And we first told you about Levy, who apparently also uses the name Mia Ventura, Shoshana, Shana. We told you about her earlier this month when the Malibu Lost Hills station put out a special bulletin about her. And since then, detectives say more people are coming forward with stories about her and her alleged crimes. Plus, we're learning a lot more about Levy herself. But at this point, there doesn't seem to be an arrest. So to talk about it, I want to welcome back on attorney Adante Pointer. Adante, it's great to see you. So Levy may be the subject of this, bolo, but I guess it really hasn't stopped her from posting on social media, because since our last episode, she has apparently posted several TikTok videos showing off her hair, her makeup, her outfits. There is even reportedly a video from what appears to be a building's balcony where you can see the skyline of a city. It's kind of unclear where exactly she is. I can't say I've seen this before.
This is an unusual situation where you have someone who is being sought by authorities, as you mentioned, to be on the lookout, a bolo, and yet they're still essentially flaunting their lifestyle and flaunting the law, if you will, by continuing to post on social media and continuing to build her social media empire and interest. It'll be interesting to find out where she actually gets caught up with by law enforcement. Is it going to be somewhere in LA, or maybe somewhere else exotic, Miami or Dubai, somewhere else where there's a lot of wealthy, well-heeled people?
Well, here's the thing. We checked, and it appears that her Instagram profile has been made private. What should we be thinking about that?
If she is ever brought up, which it looks like she will be, on criminal charges, the fact that her Instagram went dark will be used as perhaps an indicator of guilt by a prosecutor saying, look, we're looking for you. The world is looking for you. And you've tried to essentially sweep away your digital trail. And what we all should know is that that's not possible. Even if your page is made private, even if you deactivate it, it's all in the possession of the social media company, and law enforcement has access to it.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think law enforcement has access to it, and you think they're keeping tabs on what she's apparently posting on social media? If so, how easy is it for them to get that information? And also, by the way, analyze it, looking at location data or trying to put it through software to figure out where she is, what she's doing, to track her. I mean, do you know anything about that?
Our digital footprints on the internet, be it on social media or visiting websites, tells a lot of information about the individual. Where they access the site from by way of the routers, so that could give you a pinpoint location within a city. Also, where emails and things like that are coming from, and where the pictures are taken also creates metadata. And police have access to that stuff relatively easy. It's not a very difficult process for them to send a subpoena and get access to this treasure trove of data about the person they're looking at. So I'm sure police are combing through that data to get clues to track her down and bring her into custody.
And just to clarify something, just to make a point, is it possible that they have found her? Is it possible they've spoken to her, interviewed her? I mean, maybe even arrested her, and we just don't know about it? I mean, from our research, we haven't seen anything like that. Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility, but I think the chances of that happening are slim to none, given the amount of resources they appear to be putting into this case by continuing to publicize it and put out alerts to the community and to the public about her. So it seems to me like they have something in their possession already that not only links her to these crimes, but in their mind, prove up the probable cause for arrest. And therefore, when they do catch up to her, I'm pretty certain they'll be bringing her into custody.
Now, as part of this bulletin, by the way, detectives said, quote, suspect Levy has been involved in a series of residential burglaries throughout LA County, targeting older men posing as a girlfriend or companion on social media dating platforms and applications. And this bulletin included photos of two cars that she's apparently known to drive, a black Porsche SUV, a white Mercedes-Benz sedan. Media outlet SF Gate spoke with Detective Angela Lopez of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and the detective told them that at least 10 people have reported having valuables stolen, that she's gotten gotten dozens of calls about the case. Detective Lopez claimed that LaVie scammed her victims, telling SFGate basically she'll come to the house and then leave, and then the victim will later notice that something is missing. Now, Detective Lopez says that it's not just older men who have been targeted, that younger people as well, as businesses have reported that LaVie has got allegedly sticky fingers. Kind of tracks with some prior stories that we've heard about LaVie. There was this podcaster named Michael Sartain, host of Access Vegas, told Los Angeles news outlet KTLA that LaVie was a guest on an episode of his show, and at some point, according to him, LaVie went into the green room, stole credit cards and cash from the purses of all the female panelists. She then returned to be part of the panel, according to him, quote, cool as a cucumber. He told ABC7, quote, she basically sits there for 90 minutes having stolen everyone's credit cards and everyone's cash out of their purses in the green room, just the female guests, and she just sat there, cool as a cucumber, just talking about the election while she had everyone's stuff in her purse just sitting right behind her. Now, before I go any further onto this, couple things. Did you think it was interesting that you have a detective speaking out to media, but, because, you know, if it's an ongoing investigation, but is it to encourage people to come forward if they have more information or they claim that they're victims?
I think so. I think what you see is law enforcement beating the drum, telling everybody it's like when we were kids, ollie, ollie, oxen free. Anyone who has come in contact with this woman, who was victimized by this woman, let us know, because we're building a case. And the more victims, the more stories, the more things that they can corroborate. I think law enforcement already had a clue that the victims were much larger than what was earlier reported. And that's why they're heavily reporting this case and tipping their hand a little bit in order to encourage the public to participate.
Now, as I mentioned, this is a follow-up to a story that we first did, and we're going to continue to see which way this develops. And the reason that we can stay on top of stories like this is because of the incredible support that we get from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. This is a firm with over 1,000 attorneys. You know why they're so big? Because they win all the time. They have recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. Out in Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. Another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. And look, even if you think that your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not just start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so simple. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code on screen. But something we focused on last time, and I just want to amplify it here, there may be a reluctance for people to come forward or, you know, because they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed about how they met her. They're embarrassed about what she allegedly did. They may be in a situation where they don't want that to become public. What is the ability of an alleged victim to speak to law enforcement and say, I'm going to give you information, okay? I don't want my name out there. I don't want to be part of any criminal case. Is that work?
That's a very tough one. That's a judgment call on the police side, but also a judgment call on the person who wants to report as to whether or not they feel comfortable and confident enough that their identification will be kept anonymous. Because certainly, if LaVie is charged and wants her day in court and goes to trial, best believe that if you're looking as a victim or a person who claims to be victimized by her to want to receive some type of restitution or want her, what she did to you, to be the focus or a part of a criminal case, she could demand by way of a trial that you come to court, because one of the bedrock foundational pieces of the American justice system is confronting your accuser. And if you're accusing her of victimizing or committing a crime against you, best believe if you want to be vindicated by way of that criminal case, if she goes to trial, you're going to be sitting on that witness stand. Now, there is a caveat. If the case is prosecuted and ultimately she wants to bow out and say, look, I want to cut a deal, then you may never have to see a day in court if you're one of her victims.
That's a good point. You know, one of the women who was apparently victimized told KTLA that LaVie tried to charge multiple things to her stolen American Express credit card. This is again referring to that podcast. And this also included an expensive hair appointment at a Beverly Hills salon. The victim did some investigating on her own and found out that LaVie had apparently booked the appointment under that name I mentioned before, Mia Ventura, which, I mean, there's a level of a lack of sophistication here. You know, a digital footprint, you know, using a credit card, if it tracks back, that's going to be hard to explain from a defense perspective, right, Adante?
That's going to be extremely difficult to explain from the defense perspective. But as I train the young lawyers at my own firm and remind myself, people have an argument. It doesn't mean it's a winning argument. So I'm sure if from the defense perspective, she'll have some explanation for how this happened. Hey, you gave me permission, or you owed me, or you gave me your credit card number through some other type of transaction, and I had your permission to do what I did, or it was a mistake. I thought I was giving him my credit card number, and so on and so forth. There'll be an excuse and an explanation. Doesn't mean it'll be one that'll be a get out of jail free card, though.
So what do we know about her? What do we know about LaVie? Well, she apparently appeared on the cover of Playboy. She was chosen as the Penthouse Pet of the Month in July of 2023. In 2022, there was a news release from Clubhouse Media Group that announced she was joining Honey Drip. This is a rival to OnlyFans, and according to the release, LaVie is from Israel. She served in the Israel Defense Forces for 2 years. After her service, she worked as a flight attendant, according to Clubhouse Media Group. But the COVID-19 pandemic grounded planes worldwide. She was laid off. So the release says that she shifted her focus to growing her social media following, working as a model, and we've now learned that LaVie is apparently married. Yeah, so the U.S. Sun reports that Nevada marriage records indicate that LaVie married a man named Adon Eves in February of 2021. The outlet said it reached out to the couple. Their calls went unanswered. It's kind of unclear if he has any involvement with LaVie's alleged burglary schemes, but that's a different kind of aspect to this, Adante. I mean, if she really is married and this is true, what happens with this husband? I mean, how do police interview him? And he's not required to provide information about his wife, right? There is a privilege here.
Right, there's a spousal privilege, a marital privilege, which essentially he could use as a cloak of immunity to not have to dime out his wife or what his knowledge is about her activities. However, you would think his first line of defense, if he's already consulted an attorney, is I'm not saying anything, period, no matter what. But at the same time, if he should want to fall into a cooperative position with law enforcement, then I'd imagine his base of knowledge is going to be very nil to none, because he's going to say, look, no one's saying I was there. No one's saying I dropped her off, picked her up from there. I didn't know what her activities were when she was doing these things. So this was all done without my knowledge. Don't rope me into this. In fact, I'm trying to distance myself from all of this. So, I'd be very surprised if he's going to raise his hand and say, hey, I was a part of this plan to defraud or to steal from people. So, that's what I'd expect, is he try to distance himself. But we'll see how it unfolds. And if he didn't know anything, I'm sure he's reading these headlines just as many of us are, with our jaws, with our mouth open, saying, can you believe what she's alleged of doing? What a fall from grace, if you will. Maybe a fall from the penthouse suite to the courtroom seat.
I mean, that's a nice touch. I like that. I mean, I guess some pretty uncomfortable conversations might be happening there. Let me ask, there's another aspect to this that I didn't mention. Now, I think I mispronounced his name, Ives. Let's go with Ives. Ives and LaVie's names. They both pop up in the Los Angeles court system. So in fact, Ives apparently spent some time behind bars. According to The Sun, Ives was sentenced to 20 days in jail and a 1-year suspended sentence after pleading guilty to vehicular manslaughter without gross negligence in 2022. Because after this crash that he was apparently involved in, the family of the victim, a man named Manchucher Namdar, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against both of them, both LaVie and Ives. In fact, we got our hands on the complaint that was filed by Sam Namdar. This is Manchucher's son. He sued Adva LaVie and Adon Eliyahu Ives for negligence, negligent infliction of emotional distress, survival action, SB 447, loss of companionship. By the way, SB 447 refers apparently to a state bill that was signed by Governor Gavin Newsom of California that allows for damages for the pain and suffering that a person endured before they died. And according to an amended complaint, it reads, on October 13th, 2022, defendant Adon Eliyahu Ives was operating a vehicle, a 2017 gray Honda Civic. Defendant made an unsafe right turn into the path of Namdar's motorcycle. According to the complaint, LaVie was a passenger in the car, which was registered to her. Namdar argued that since LaVie let Ives drive her car, she was vicariously liable for the accident. And LA court records indicate that the parties reached a settlement last year. Details of that settlement weren't available. That's an interesting aspect to this, Adante. Does it play into this in any way, or is it totally unrelated? Or you talk about whether police speak to Ives, does that give them some sort of, I don't know the word, leverage or pressure to put on him?
Well, if Ives is on probation, at the current time when the police catch up to him or them, then they may try to use that as, hey, we got you tied into this some kind of way. This could be a probation violation. You could be headed back to the slammer. So if you don't cooperate or give us what we're looking for, we could try to press you in that way. So there could be some leverage that the police are able to exert or place upon him to get him to cooperate. At the same time, this is a wholly separate incident, what we're talking about. This is vehicular manslaughter, essentially him, as you said, making an unsafe lane change, and tragically someone lost their life. That has nothing to do with robbing, stealing, and doing those things that his wife is accused of. So, I don't see that they're going to be able to use that in her case in proper and chief, but at the same time, that is a bargaining chip, if you will, that the police can use for leverage when they finally catch up to him if he's on probation.
Now, multiple outlets, including The Sun and KTLA, they have reported that LaVie was arrested in Los Angeles in May of this year, unreleased on bail. It's not clear exactly what the accusations were against her in that case. It is interesting that LaVie has some experience with the justice system, but LaVie herself has apparently responded to some of these allegations against her. The Daily Mail reached out to her after the special bulletin was released, and she said that she hadn't even heard about the accusations until they called. According to the Daily Mail, LaVie told them over the phone, "I think when you probably hang out with someone really powerful and someone really connected, if you piss them off, it's problematic because they can really bleep you over." And when the Daily Mail pushed for more details about this apparent conspiracy, she reportedly hung up on them. Adante, interesting to say the least.
Yeah, she's trotting out a sense of like, hey, I'm clueless about any of this. Why would I suspect anybody, getting in contact with the police about me, and especially claiming that I did things like this? However, upon reflection, I do hang out with powerful people, and maybe my personality, or I rubbed them the wrong way, or I didn't do what they wanted me to do, and now they want to kind of essentially smear my credibility and character in an effort to either exact revenge or to keep me from exposing them and their secrets. So, it's an interesting play and something that doesn't sound so far-fetched, except for maybe that it doesn't appear that she has one person or a couple of people complaining about their interaction with her, but from reports, 10 and more different people complaining that she fleeced them for their goods.
And if these allegations are true, I just want to highlight something. So according to the latest numbers from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, this year alone, there have been more than 31,000 reports of romance scams with more than $650 million lost to these scammers. It is believed that these numbers are actually on the low end because these crimes are really not reported. And it can be embarrassing, like we talked about. It can be embarrassing to admit that you've fallen for something like this. Maybe you're in a situation where you can't admit it. And these scams have gotten more and more sophisticated. People of all ages are being targeted. Forbes reports that one estimate says that 1 in 4 people have been scammed online through romance scams and other types of fraud. Adante, are you surprised to see that? Is it the advent of technology? Is it different platforms? I mean, when I read those numbers, they seem pretty shocking.
Yeah, I think technology certainly allows people to have a greater reach and perhaps actually fly under the radar because you don't have to necessarily be limited to your geographical area. You can romance somebody on the other side of the world right out of their feelings and their pocketbook. So, I could see why this is more proliferating more nowadays. But at the same time, because of these digital footprints that people leave, it should be a little bit more easier, if you will, for police to follow up on these type of allegations. So, as it's been told to me that the dating pool is Philippi, and that very might be true when you look at those numbers in that data set. Be careful out there, folks.
Yeah, be careful. And I guess the question is, if LaVie is allegedly targeting people in person instead of online, there's a digital trail, things like that. If you're targeting somebody in person, does it make law enforcement's job easier or harder? Again, assuming these allegations are true. And by the way, she hasn't been officially charged. She's innocent until proven guilty. But if you target someone in person, is it different than online?
I think targeting someone in person is different in the sense that for police to investigate it, they don't have, once again, these digital clues, be it the email, the DM or the message on social media where you introduce yourself and maybe your services and somebody's responded and you and you've cemented the meetup times and things like that, versus in person, the police have to find somebody to corroborate that, because otherwise it's just a he say, she say story. And that also may be a reason why people who claim to have been, fleeced by her took so long to come forward, because they're thinking to themselves, what do I have to corroborate that we met up, that she was here, that she had access to my home, and that I actually had the object or the item that I claimed she took.
Now, according to the LA County Sheriff's Department's special bulletin asking people to be on the lookout for her, LaVie, she is 5'7", 104 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. They're asking for anybody who has information about these apparent burglaries, these thefts, whatever you want to call them, at the homes of rich men, or any of LaVie's other alleged bad behavior, to reach out if you have information. And we have the contact information for 2 detectives directly involved in the case up on the screen now. We're going to put them up in the description, so tips can also be submitted anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Dante Pointer, thanks so much for taking the time to talk about this again.
Appreciate you for having me. Take care.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.